Hey everybody, it's baseball for Friday the 13th. Apparently that's the day. All right, well, we're going to talk about baseball. It's the MLB algorithm. It's the most predictive model ever created because I made it and I've been doing it for years. And I keep beating odds makers just like yesterday. And we'll talk about that. So yesterday was a pretty good day, 5-3. Poor Dodgers came back from down 6 runs to tie it and then lose to the Phillies. Other than that, good stuff. Cincinnati beating Pittsburgh, underdog. Mets, nice clean win. Detroit tried to come back against Oakland but couldn't win here. Yankees are an underdog. They win. Baltimore was even higher on the list yesterday before updates of lineups and such, and they win. Kansas City lost to Texas. And then this game kind of flipped over, so I wouldn't even count this game down here at the bottom. But it's nice to see 3 out of 4 underdogs winning. That means the algorithm's doing its job, and good for the algorithm. Also, some overs and stuff worked out. So let's talk about today. Here's the raw look at today right now, and then we're going to go over game by game, and we'll try to make it interesting. So it likes the Angels at the top, but this guy is a Double-A pitcher who's making his first start. So there's a big, huge watch out for this game here because it's his first start in the majors, even though his Double-A pitching stats are really, really good this year. Then you've got a few favorites here, Yankees, Mets, Dodgers. Better line on Texas over Boston. Interesting, we'll have to look at that. Then you start to see some underdogs down here, Baltimore and the Cubs. Underdog St. Louis over San Francisco, underdog Miami over Milwaukee. But let's look at those games and see, because just at a glance, if you were to look at this and say, what are you supposed to play based on what you're seeing here? You're supposed to play these top 3 because their margins are really good. But is there anything else down here, and is there any intelligence you can gain about the game? And that's where we look at this big grid here in the matchup sheet, which has everything we can kind of look over and some variables that we can toggle to run different simulations to see what's the most probable outcome, or at least type of game flow that you're going to see. So all these games are late today, so there really isn't any action early, so you could watch this video before then. I'm posting it up before 3 o'clock Eastern time. So, well, these are all 2022 pitching stats for all the pitchers, except for this new guy, Chase Sissleth, who's got great Double-A stats, right? Well, let's go one by one. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh shows a really, really high-scoring game because these pitchers' 2022 ERAs are terrible. Tyler Mahle and Mitch Keller. If you try to bring this down to 2021 stats, you can see that Mitch Keller's stats were still awful last year. And that would give this game to Cincinnati. So I understand why it's almost a pick'em game in terms of the lines. I would agree that that makes the most sense. You're supposed to count on an over in this game because of all these runs. And the only thing, over-unders only set at 8. The only reason you would have some concerns about that is, well, what's the wind situation in Pittsburgh? And the answer is, well, it's 9 miles per hour blowing in. And that means that hitting the over becomes slightly more difficult because the factors that are involved in hitting the over are not conforming to a higher scoring game. So what do you do in this game? It's a pick'em game. You're not going to win it every time. So if you're trying a round robin or a parlay, you really don't want to. You want to ignore the winner in this game. But if you had to pick anybody, you'd probably pick, I don't know. It says Cincinnati. So slightly, but it also says over, and over 8 is a better pick, but also not completely confirmed because of the wind. So I'd say ignore that game if you want to pick that's probably going to be a winner because you don't know. How about Miami and Milwaukee? And we'll try to speed this up as we go to make quicker decisions, but it's important to talk through it because I don't know, that's what this is for. So Miami and Milwaukee, one thing that I see here is an extremely low scoring game. Very believable in Milwaukee, which is a big indoor dome stadium. It says Miami slightly wins this game and are an underdog. That's because Pablo Lopez pitching excellent this year. Corbin Burns also pitching pretty well, even though his win-loss doesn't represent it. So it says Miami slightly wins this low-scoring game. Well, what about with last year's stats? Here it flips and Milwaukee wins a game that gets up to about 4-3-ish. So is the over 7? No, it's set at 6.5. Son of a gun. So that game becomes extremely difficult to pick as well. However, With the 2022 stats and the home team being Miami and this line being 130, as a straight bet, Miami is a pretty good pick here because it's going to be a close game, and even Miami plus 1.5 too is also a possibility. But that's where you want to have the money because of the line in this situation. Houston and Washington. This game is in Washington. Should I go? Nah, I'm not going to go. It says Houston wins this game. Washington not playing well at all this year. Pretty good pitching matchup. 4-3. We're expecting a little rain off and on here in the nation's capital today. It says Houston both ways with 21 and 2022 stats. So it's a closer game this way, but Houston's supposed to win this game. Margin is set at 0. Interesting. So tough call actually, because the line is not agreeing with this, but does say Houston wins. So that's a round robin type pick, Houston winning because they're supposed to win there. Toronto and Tampa Bay. Here, pretty good pitching matchup. Wow. With Gausman and Rasmussen. Low scoring game. Could be 3-3-ish. No margin on this game, so it doesn't know who to pick. Under 2021 stats. Well, a lot of close games today. Slightly says Tampa Bay at this underdog line because Rasmussen pitched really well last year also. So, wow, really tough. Very, very tough game. It's a pick 'em game. What's the over-under in that game? 6.5. Oh, my God. Wow. What? Talk of 6.5 unders all over the place. I'd say it's too close to call. That's what it's saying. Seattle and the Mets. Here we got the Mets winning 5-3. Good old Mets. Big margin of 27% power. Big 15% margin because Scherzer is going under last year's stats. Same situation. Mets at minus 222. That's why they're on that list. Tough to win by more than 1.5 at home, but it says they will. So Mets to win on a round robin, though, minus 1.5 at home are difficult to cover sometimes. Baltimore and Detroit. This game looks like it could be interesting. So here you have Jordan Lyles against an 0-2 Eduardo Rodriguez. I'm tempted to switch the years on the pitching stats here in a second, but it does say Baltimore can win a higher scoring game here at this plus 136 line. Gives them an 8% margin in the game. Let's verify this with last year. Still favoring Baltimore barely. So in this case, Baltimore plus 1.5 because they're on the road at this plus 26. Excellent round robin pick. Because that's supposed to be extremely close and they're supposed to win. So the straight bet is taking them to win, but the round robin parlay pick is taking them plus 1.5. San Diego and Atlanta. Atlanta, Max Fried going, pitching okay. Yu Darvish, okay as well. It says Atlanta wins this 4-3. How about last year? Still, the line is 154 and they are at home. Good pitching matchup. Only 5% margin. Does say Atlanta wins, though. Confirms it in both scenarios. Boston and Texas. Texas winning at home. Why? Because Nick Pivetta is a disaster. That's why. So, team runs for Texas is interesting here because the bullpen ERA is for Boston, but their starting pitcher is a mess and was also pretty much a mess last year. So, Texas winning this game are they winning this game in both scenarios? No, they're not winning it in 2021 scenario, but you're still at 8 runs. Texas is not they're a slight favorite, so over under 8.5 in that game. Tough game, but like I said, there's a conflict there with Texas and Boston years of pitching, but Texas team runs is what I'm erring on the side of because it's probably over 3.5. It might be over 4.5. We'll see. It's a tough one. Yankees and White Sox. Yankees and White Sox. Right, where'd it go? Yankees and White Sox are right down here. Okay, here you've got number 2 pick of the day being the Yankees. Good pitching out of Garrett Cole, obviously, this year. Lineup factor strong. Most of these lineups are not confirmed, I think, by the way, either. They're all expected. So that looks good in 2022 version. How about 2021 version? Yup, even worse. So Yankees to win, and Yankees -1.5, given that they are on the road there, and it says they hit that in both scenarios. So the Yankees -1.5. Cleveland and Minnesota. Big runs from Minnesota going up against a huge ERA for Aaron Savali this year. How about last year's better? And now Cleveland wins, and they're the number 4 pick of the day looking at last year's stats. Sonny Gray. How is Sonny Gray pitching this year? A little better, but only 10 innings, but he's 0-1. So in this situation, it's looking like runs, because you see how you have some bad ERAs in both years bouncing around. Savali having a bad year this year. Savali would have to pitch excellent to keep the runs down in this game. 8.5 over that 8, if you can get it, is what to do there, because the outcome flipped based on whether or not Savali can have a good outing. So there's a juicy line there for Cleveland if he does, though. But that's the over there. San Francisco and St. Louis. Barely like St. Louis at home. Good pitching out of Jordan Hicks this year. Really good pitching out of Logan Webb. Very evenly matched game, but it's putting the lineup factor in favor of St. Louis, and that is why it favors them, but not in 2021 stats, it doesn't. But Jordan Hicks had very limited stats in 2021, and they were not good. Here he has even more stats in 2022, and this game is a straight-up tie almost. So St. Louis is the straight bet, but that's a tough game to play. That's just a tough game to play, guys. I'd stay away from that. San Francisco, good team, got good bullpen. Kansas City and Colorado. Colorado stats always a little inflated because they are. Kansas City is supposed to win this game by projected score, but not by margin because of 0-2 Zach Greinke this year. Oh my goodness. So if you go to 2021 stats in this game, that's almost a tie. It puts it in favor of Colorado at home at -140. So you can see how close this game is in both scenarios, and that line is not deserving of Colorado, even though Kansas City not playing well. How did Greinke pitch last year again? 11-6 with a 4 ERA. He should be a better pitcher. Difficult game to play, like most of them today, but this Colorado doesn't seem deserving because it looks like Kansas City can win this game. And should we expect runs? 10.5 is what because we're in Colorado. Wow, tough board today. Cubs in Arizona. Thinks the Cubs can pull this off on the road in 2022 stats. Even though Drew Smyly not pitching well and Zach Davies pitching okay. So that's a really close game. Here, it gets better for the Cubs. So there you can side with the Cubs given that both outcomes favor them. They are an underdog on the road. And it's properly accounting for pitching this year against two pitchers that have been pitching regularly. So it is Arizona. They seem to be spoiling this year, but this is where you're supposed to have the money. As a favorite, maybe Arizona can't do it. Then you have this Angels game with the AA pitching stats for Chase Silseth. Dalton Jeffries pitching terribly anyway. Looks like a really good spot for the Angels to pick up a win in this guy's first start, given how good his AA stats were and the fact that Oakland is not really a good team and kind of a mess this year. So -146, okay. Apparently they're supposed to win this by 1.5 or more. Maybe they'll try to pad some runs for this new guy to get him his win. How about last year's pitching stats, which are probably better for Dalton Jeffries? It's still more than a 1.5 victory for the Angels. So you can put your faith in a AA pitcher. If you're going to do that, you do it with Angels -1.5, or at least to win at that line that is not that bad. Last game of the day, Philly and the Dodgers. Dodgers tried to come back and let us down last night, but they do have heart. They're supposed to win this game 4-2-ish against Philly, against two good pitchers with Gibson and Walker Buehler. Last year's stats are going to favor the Dodgers even more. So the line is representing of that, and people don't think the Dodgers are going to drop another game, but that line is just miserable. And covering -1.5 at home is terrible. So it's kind of like you throw them to win on the round robin or parlay, but the line is bad. The line is bad. And what is the over-under in this game? 8. Says that they might get to 8 under the 2021 pitching stats, but games with Walker, see, they're still slightly under 8 there. So maybe taking an alternate under 8.5 or under 9 especially would be more reliable and might even be a better line than the Dodgers to win, which is probably why you mess with over-unders. So that's the look today. I bet a ton of things when I'm available to bet in a state where FanDuel is legal. Last night I bet like $50. You know, I don't like to bet a lot of money. I really don't. I don't like losing a lot of money. I like trying to win a lot of money with little money. And I bet 50, and I bet it like 50 different things, or 35 or 40 different things last night. And I ended up losing, I think, $19. And had the Dodgers won last night, I would have won money. So it's kind of like I had my money on the big pick, and they didn't win, but they tried. And that's what betting is it's not winning every day, but it's trying to do the best you can. So had you just done straight bets on all these games, you would have done very well yesterday with all those underdogs winning. So today, based on what we just saw, what we talked about, what I'm going to do, let's look at the list to make sure it conforms to that. One of the things I'm going to do, I'll probably do a ton of things, but one of the things, and if I were to consolidate my picks into the only the top ones, which people often ask me to do that, and you're right, like, what are the picks? Well, it was Angels -1.5 or Angels to win. I mean, I don't want to give you duplicitous advice here, but that's taking teams -1.5. If they win the game, I would have also said, this algorithm told you they were going to win, and you could have bet them to win. So really, it's Angels to win if you really want to talk about the premium pick there. The Yankees to win also, or the Yankees -1.5 if you're trying to get paid. This Mets game, but the line was bad, right? The Dodgers, I said, take the under 8.5 in this situation. Texas, I think I said Texas team runs, right? I said the Cubs to win. And I think I was torn on this Baltimore-Detroit game, although I wanted to do Baltimore. I think did it confirm Baltimore in both scenarios? Let's double check again. Baltimore-Detroit right there. It was Baltimore barely or Baltimore barely. Yeah, so it was Baltimore. It was Baltimore +1.5. Sorry, because of that being so close. So Baltimore +1.5. This was too. I think it was too tough, but it did say Atlanta. This was too tough. Here there was an over, right? Yeah, there was an over in this game, and Houston was also supposed to win as well. So there's a lot of picks there. All right. So good luck, everybody. If you like what you see, pass it around. Try to get more views, or go to kenbraverman.com, purchase a week subscription, and get this via email before I do the video every day. And you can act on it before everybody else sees what it says. So good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.